Getting ready to take on spring? Make your first move with the reliable performance and power of Steel battery tools. From hedge trimmers and mowers to string trimmers and more, right now you can save $50 on select battery tool sets. Real Steel. Offer valid on select AK system sets through June 16, 2024. See participating retailer for details.
I'm Eddie Alterman.
And I'm Tony Quiroga. We're the hosts of Car and Driver's Into Cars, a new podcast from Car and Driver and iHeartMedia's Ruby Studio, coming Thursday, June 6th.
Into Cars is the ultimate podcast for car lovers, whether you're in the market for a new set of wheels or just love the sound of a V8. Our panel of editors and car connoisseurs break down today's hottest rides with zero filter. Car and Driver's Into Cars is brought to you by eBay Motors. All the parts you need at the prices you want. Guaranteed to fit your ride every time. Visit ebaymotors.com for more. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Listen to Car and Driver's Into Cars starting June 6th, and we make it easy by making it available wherever you get your podcasts.
How valuable was the experience, the high-level starting experience from Nathan Rourke and bringing him in? What went into that whole process?
Yeah, well, Nathan, CFL experience obviously speaks for itself, but I think for a guy that, tracking him in Jacksonville last year, knowing that he can operate, a team on the 90-man roster, whether it's as a backup, third string, fourth string, whatever he's called to do in the preseason, he had experience doing it. So I just think the book of business speaks for itself, and hard worker. First day he was here, he's running extra gases and sprints by himself, watching him through the office door. So I'm happy Nathan's here.
Brandon, what was the experience for you like coming so close to the Chargers GM job? And can you tell us how you knew Jim Harbaugh? Because everybody wrote that you had a good relationship with Jim Harbaugh, but no one knows why.
Well, I think the nature of our relationship it's not important. But I'd say this. I think whenever you're in the conversation for those jobs, you appreciate it because they're hard to come by. There are only 32 of them. One, I appreciate everyone that's helped groom me to get me to this point. The talks I've had with Joe, Daves, even John Mara, through the whole process, it's almost feel like you're being propped up and supported in a way that makes you feel really good. But I think remember we had a joint practice with Detroit. During that time, Joe and I, we like to get over to schools. Joe, Tim, Dennis, Ryan Cowden, myself, all went down to Michigan, and you get time just to spend time with other coaches and talk ball, and that's how a lot of the relationships develop. But I kind of leave it at that. But that's really the breeding ground for a lot of relationships.
What did you learn through the whole experience?
Say it again, Jordan.
What did you learn through the whole experience of interviewing and having your name out there and talking to people within the organization?
Yeah, I think the one thing is, the work is the best preparation that you can have. It's your foundation. I think whether you're talking about roster building, culture, player acquisition, the cap, all those things, when you go through the process, you realize what you've been exposed to, and it actually gives you confidence in doing your job on the day-to-day. So to me, going through the process lets you know that, hey, all the things that are entailed in doing the job, I've been exposed to, which has been really great. And I tell Joe, more than just being a friend, but being a coworker, he's never shielded anything from me, which to me made itself evident through the process.
How do you balance those conversations in your role, which you feel like is best for the Giants, juxtaposed to what the coach feel like is best for the Giants?
Yeah, I think the best thing is there's synergy between coaching staff and the personnel department. The wins matter. When we win, everybody gets rewarded. So we look at it from the lens of personnel. We may see something from a short-term versus long-term. Coaches may see it from a short-term lens, and it's our job to educate and share in an open forum of, okay, if we do this in the short term, these are the long-term implications, and vice versa. So I think it's expanding the conversations, and one, just being on the same page of, if we do this, this is the ripple effect.
Brandon, what was it like? I mean, I know you guys look at all positions every year in the draft, including quarterbacks, but this year there was a lot of looking at quarterbacks from everybody. To go through that process, knowing you had a pretty high pick, and then at the end of it, not coming out with a quarterback.
Yeah, well, I say when it comes to the quarterback, we treat it like no other position where we're going to do our due diligence. It's negligent if we don't. So we're going to go the whole call it kitchen sink approach of whether it's private workouts, whether it's live games, whether it's talking to coaches whether it's high school, college, positional coordinators. Whenever there's any type of crossover between our coaches that have worked with some of these other former call it quarterbacks coaches in the past, we're going to do it. I think when you're picking as high as we did, it's really important to don't leave any stone unturned, because you never know how the draft takes you. And you never want to get caught flat-footed. So we prepare for every scenario, and that's what we did.
What interested you in Drew Lock, and what are your impressions of him so far?
Well, obviously we saw Drew versus Seattle. A lot of us have seen Drew going back to his days in Missouri, in Denver, and he's got some moxie and competes to him. So I just think with him getting adjusted to our scheme, obviously our offense is not simple. So, he's got the whole full gambit of knowing what's different than what he's been exposed to, and really happy to see him learn. And really, it's going to be one of those things. It's going to be a learning process for him, and it's not going to be overnight. And we're happy to support him in every way we can as we go forward toward training camp.
What went into signing Elijah Riley?
Yeah, so Elijah, I had prior experience with Elijah as an undrafted free agent back in Philly. There's some crossover. Gobi had him back with the Jets as well, and then just our pro department, led by Chris Rossetti, they always keep on the forefront of what's the best available on the street at different levels for different times of year. And when you look at Elijah, he's West Point grad, Army kid, 31 tests, really bright, has played in the nickel, has played safety, and has been a productive teamer. And you see what he did with Pittsburgh last year when he had an opportunity as an elevation player. There's experience there as a guy who's still young. He's under 28, he's 26 years old, and he's local. So I just think one of those, you take all those factors and you put them together. He had a good workout, and it's a platform for him where I think that he can give us a really good showing, and there's a comfort level there from the past people that have had a really crossover with him on different staffs.
What's the Hard Knocks experience like? What's the Hard Knocks?
Repeat that again, Cheryl.
The Hard Knocks experience, what's that been like for you guys as a front office?
Yeah, I'll put it this way. It's different at first, and then you go about your day-to-day. You forget sometimes that you're mic'd, you forget sometimes that the camera's there, and I kind of put it this way. If you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, you shouldn't have to think twice that the camera's on you. So it becomes a place where privacy goes away a little bit, but if you're always doing the right thing, you don't got to worry about it.
You guys didn't draft any offensive linemen, which I think surprised some people. Just why not? Why didn't you come out of this draft with any O-line?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it too, when you talk about forecasting and projecting, we do that across the board, whether it's in February going into free agency, going into the draft. You know what the landscape looks like. And we knew that there were going to be opportunities in free agency to bolster the whole line. You look at adding Runyon and Illuminor, guys that have been healthy, available. There's some familiarity there. Obviously, Carmbrasilla being here, coming over from Vegas, having time with Jermaine. Where we were in the draft, the positions that we took, we felt great about those guys being contributors for us this year, and knowing that we addressed certain things via the draft, the way things lined up just from resource allocation. We're really excited what we came away with.
We're in our 4th year consecutive of spring ball in some iteration, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is that important to the football ecosystem, and how does it help you within the pro scouting department as a whole?
I think right now when you get into the other leagues, it's ever evolving. Whether it's the talent base that's in the CFL versus the supplemental other leagues. When you had the XFL, the USFL, you look at what's best at this time of year and how can it serve the 90-man roster. Not every player is going to make a roster, but can this guy give us a good day's work on the 90-man? Can he be someone that can be in the practice squad? Can he push for a depth role? So everyone has their own, call it ceiling, and it's our job to figure out where do they fit when the need arises for us.
Brandon, you've been here from
All right, go ahead.
You've been here from the beginning when you guys started building this. And Joe came in and built his front office and the personnel department. When you move on to this process now you've gone through 3 different drafts, and you're as involved as anyone. How do you balance the professional and the personal? And what I mean is, you guys didn't have the year you wanted last year. You have a lot of young players out here. You want to see them develop and get to that point. You also have personal aspirations as to you want to run your own thing right now. Together, is there part of you that looks at the timing of this and says, you know what, being a part of this, I want to see this kind of get to where we thought it could be before you start building your own thing? Is there any part of that for you?
Yeah, I'd say no different than when we talk to our players. And when I say that, it means, realize your personal goals through team achievement. That's the best way for things to come together, where it's when you win, everybody gets rewarded, right? That's the nature of our business. And I think when you look at where we are, we've turned over the roster where there's a lot of young pieces in our nucleus. And I think when you look at those young pieces, they're at positions of impact. And I think this is an opportunity for all those guys to take another level and take a step in a way that you could say, okay, maybe year 1, year 2, it was starting to turn and we're going through some growing pains. But we expect there to be a jump in performance from guys that may not be household names, but we know that we feel good about as they're developing as young guys at, like I said, under 28 years old, which is, to me, always a sweet spot.
Brandon, when a player like Darius Slayton stays away for a time due to his contract, are you involved in that process at all as assistant GM? And then how do you guys resolve situations like that so that it sends a positive and not a negative message to like the rest of the locker room and to that player as well?
Yeah, and right now, Pat, I don't think there's anything negative in terms of Darius. The time here recently has been voluntary, so he hasn't had to been here. 1, glad that he's back. 2, gave him a big hug this morning and was like, haven't not seen him for the past duration of the OTA process. So 1, I'm glad Darius is back. And I think when you look at the totality of the message it sends to the locker room, everyone knows there's a difference between the personal and the professional, and not blending how you feel about a person. We all love Darius, and there's disagreements between families, but you find a way to find common ground, which we did, and you move forward. So we're happy that he's here, and we're happy to keep moving forward with him. He's back like he never left.
What do you think of the NFLPA's considerations to kind of change the off-season workout timing?
I think for you guys and us as well, the timing won't be great for families, but just like anything else in this league, when the calendar changes, you adapt and adjust, and the new norm becomes what your schedule is. So I just think if it comes down to something that's not ideal right now, we'll adjust, and then you'll find, whether it's family time, whether it's vacation time, whether it's other things in terms of building out the roster, etc. We'll adjust, and we'll figure out that blueprint, and then we'll start following it.
What can you share about the process for Newman? What have you shared? What could you share about the draft process for Newman? Because it seemed like he had a different avenue than maybe most of the guys really throughout this tenure for you guys in 3 years. That you didn't have him for a visit here, so you guys did a lot of stuff out there, and I know you were central in that.
So I'd say with Tyler, 1, can't talk about him without mentioning Hannah Burnett, our area scout. She's done a hell of a job for 2 straight years on Tyler, because we didn't know if he was a guy that would be available last year. So if you look at his book of business, the high-level FBI, his football instincts, ability to take the ball away, the character. Hannah did such a great job in the character, as well as our other area scouts and national scouts, that we felt great where we didn't have to have extra touch points with Tyler. And then you look back to his testing numbers. Maybe some people said he wished he would have ran faster. When he came here for his physical, I gave him a big hug, and I was like, you know what? I feel like I got one of my favorite food on discount, because the tape speaks for itself. And so I'm glad he's here. When you meet him, he has one of those personalities where he can be kind of like the alphas of alphas, and he's a young man with a grown mindset. So happy he's here. The process was painless with him. Luckily, he had a book of business that was large for 2 years of doing a lot of work on him, and that's why those extra touch points you talk about weren't necessary.
Kind of the same question, Brandon, on Neighbors. What were your exposures with him? And obviously there were a lot of top receivers. So how were you able to, or what was important for you guys to decide that Neighbors was the guy and not maybe somebody else in the receiver class?
Yeah, so Malik, or Leak, I like to call him, he's just got a rare competitiveness and edge to him. Something that, I haven't been around. I kind of say he's got moxie, dog, the cool kids call it aura these days, where he wants to be at his best versus best on the biggest platform, and he's gonna let you know about it. And I think you go back to the process with him. Joe and I saw Malik play against Florida State 2 years in a row, first game of the season. And then you go back to Scott Hamill doing a lot of work in the area. Our national scouts doing work in the area. Tim McDonald being, from my exposure, having the best connects at LSU in terms of getting all the coach feedback and background that's necessary to feel good about a player's aptitude in terms of learning what he is every day, not just in the offseason getting prepared for the draft. And then probably a guy who does a thankless job or an unseen job, Jesse Armstead. Jesse was heavily involved with Malik, still is, where we try to kind of treat him like little brother, where we've talked everything to Malik about what he likes off the field, his day-to-day. We talk about building video game consoles and him being into fashion, all the things that you don't get unless you have multiple touch points with a person, and there's a comfort level. So to me, Malik as a player, the ceiling is what he makes of it, and we know what he is every day. He raises the competitive stamina and outlook in this group. It's a young receiver group, and he's a guy that comes in and everybody knows rent is due every day. And that's what you want out of a guy you take in the first round.
It's obviously all a projection, but then when they come out on here, they're out on the field with other professionals. Yeah. What have you seen from him or noticed from him when out on the field here?
Yeah, Jordan, I think, it's a small sample size right now. Obviously, the hot takes and T-shirts and shorts, not having live one-on-one periods, there's only so much you can take from it. But what I do say is he's a guy who's moved around a lot positionally, and our offense that is not easy to grasp, and he's done it seamless. Like it's been like a glove fit for him, where he's learning different roles on the fly, and he's making it look like it's second nature to him. So he's a give me more guy. He's handling it. Joe, Dayball, Kafka, Mike Groh, they've all poured into Malik. And I'd say I've worked with Mike Groh for a number of years. I don't think he's given me a larger hug than when we drafted Malik. So everybody's happy.
Do the exploding wide receiver extension free agent contracts make it more important nowadays to hit on wide receivers in the draft? Like, is that a position that you almost need to be cost controlled because it's $30 million if you need a number one receiver somewhere else?
Yeah, it's you see where the wave is going. We've talked over the years about projecting the market. You see where where the forecast is, and you don't want to be on the wrong ends of deals. And I think when you look at how young our receiver core is, it's an advantageous position to be in. Just the production and the opportunity and the skill set, all allows for you to be cost controlled, like you're mentioning. And the thing is, you want to be cost controlled for multiple years, young guys that are durable. And I think the way that we've built it, almost like a basketball team, there's complementary parts, right? There you have a point guard, a shooting guard, small forward. It's kind of how you're building your front court and your back court. There aren't duplicative roles right now, where you think a lot of guys can do different things, but they're a specialist in something that the other guy really doesn't excel at. So I love the way we put it together, between the synergy with the coaching staff, where they've been very clear with the vision and allowed us to really complement them and expose them to the landscape of what's out there, whether it's the draft, whether it's free agency. And that's where we put the plan together and where we're at right now.
Love is more than a feeling. It's a connection, a bond, a look, and yes, even a tail wag. And the Pedigree brand believes love can happen at first sight. In fact, it's closer than you think. So, if you're looking for love, look in all the right places by joining the Pedigree Adoption Drive at your local dog shelter on June 7th to 9th. And Pedigree will reimburse your dog adoption fees. Visit pedigree.com/adoption-drive to learn more and see full terms and conditions.
Get the champagne ready. The NBA Finals are here.
Welcome to the NBA Finals.
Let's raise our glasses and our rings to the two phenomenal teams left standing.
My goodness!
Here's to high-stakes action, to thrilling moments we can't miss.
He ties the game at the buzzer!
And to crowning our next champion. Here's a toast to the NBA Finals. The 2024 NBA Finals, presented by YouTube TV, begin Thursday, June 6th on ABC.